We're live from New Delhi. You're watching the India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says if needed, Israelis will stand alone in its fight against Hamas after US warning on arms supplies. Israel strikes eastern Rafah as ceasefire talks end with no deal. Ukrainian President Zelensky dismisses head of state guard after two members accused of assassination plot. Rescue teams race against time to deliver aid to flood-stricken communities in southern Brazil. More intense rain expected as death toll reaches 107. And in football, Atalanta trounced Marseille 3-0 to reach their first Europa League final. Will play Bayer Leverkusen, who reached a final with comeback draw against Roma. And updates on Israel-Hamas conflict first. Rejecting international pressure to halt military operation in Gaza, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared that if needed, Israel will stand alone in its fight against Hamas.
We are determined and we are united in order to defeat our enemies and those who want to destroy us. If we need to stand alone, we will stand alone. I have said that if necessary, we will fight with our fingernails. But we have much more than fingernails, and with that same strength of spirit, with God's help, together we will win.
Well, Netanyahu spoke after U.S. President Joe Biden said the United States would not provide offensive weapons for Israel's military operation on the southern Gaza city of Rafah. The U.S. has already paused a shipment of bombs to Israel. And moving on, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he hopes that U.S. President Joe Biden and he can overcome their disagreements over the conflict in Gaza. In an interview to a TV channel, Netanyahu said Hamas hide behind their civilians. The Israeli Prime Minister again made it clear that he will do whatever necessary to protect Israel. And the United States said it believes a major military operation in Rafah would weaken Israel's position in hostage talks with Palestinian militants Hamas. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller in a daily briefing said Washington continues to engage with Israel on amendments to a ceasefire proposal submitted by Hamas.
We actually think that a Rafah operation would weaken Israel's position, both in these talks and writ large. We've talked about this before, that a major military operation in Rafah would further weaken Israel's standing in the world, would further create distance from its partners in the region, who actually share Israel's goal of seeing Hamas defeated and want to see Hamas replaced with a different governance structure in Gaza.
Well, Israeli troops took control and closed the Rafah crossing with Egypt at the start of their operation. A senior Israeli official late on Thursday said that the latest round of indirect negotiations in Cairo to halt hostilities in Gaza had ended and Israel would proceed with its operation in Rafah and other parts of the Gaza as planned. He added that Israel has submitted to mediators its reservations about a Hamas proposal for a hostage release deal. Delegations from Hamas, Israel, the US, Egypt and Qatar had been meeting in Cairo since Tuesday. The talks in Egypt's capital made some headway, but no deal was reached. Hamas blames Israel for the lack of agreement, while Israel has said it is open to a truce but has rejected demands for an end to the conflict. And with land routes into Gaza hard to access and not fully operational, Jordan has led a coalition of Western and Arab air forces that is focused on airdrops in northern Gaza. Commander of British forces in Cyprus, Air Vice Marshal Peter Squire, said the airdrops through Jordan are an incredibly effective way to distribute aid to Palestinians in Gaza. He said Britain's Royal Army Force was making its 11th airdrop by the Royal Air Force, which reached a cumulative total of 110 meter tons of aid on Thursday. The airdrops were mostly conducted close to Gaza seashore because that's the safest place to drop the aid. Britain was also helping efforts to speed up the operation of the Cyprus-inspired maritime corridor, where a pier that will be placed off the Gaza coast could be operational very soon. And Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, told enemies and friends of Israel that it would do whatever necessary to achieve its aims in Gaza and the north.
אני פונה ואומר מכאן.
We have no choice. We have no other country. We will do whatever is necessary, and I repeat, whatever is necessary, in order to defend the citizens of Israel, to remove the evil threats against us, and to stand up to those who attempt to destroy us. I turn to Israel's enemies as well as to our best of friends and say the state of Israel cannot be subdued, not the IDF, not the defense establishment, and not the state of Israel. We will stand strong. We will achieve our goals. We will hit Hamas, we will hit Hezbollah, and we will achieve security.
Well, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky sacked the head of the state guards on Thursday after two members were accused of plotting to assassinate the president. The State Security Service, or the SBU, said that this week it had caught two men, colonels in the State Guard Service, accused of plotting the assassination of Zelensky and other top officials. The Security Service also claimed that the men were recruited by Russia's Federal Security Service, or the FSB, who leaked classified information to Moscow. Though Russia has not commented on this yet, according to SBU, the men were tasked with finding someone close to the presidential guard who would take Zelensky hostage and later kill him. There was no indication at what point the alleged plot had been foiled. And a Ukrainian drone on Thursday struck a major oil processing plant in Russia's Bashkiria region, a record 1,500 kilometers away. Ukraine also hit two oil depots in southern Russia as Kyiv tries to undermine Russian forces pressing along front lines on its territory by attacking energy facilities that are crucial to funding the economy and the war. Russia's emergency service said a drone attack damaged a pumping station building at Gazprom's Neftekhim Salavat oil processing, petrochemical and fertilizer complex in Bashkiria, Russia's largest such plant. The governor of the region said the plant was functioning as usual despite the attack. And Russian anti-aircraft units intercepted a drone south of Moscow, and there were no injuries or damage from falling debris, Moscow mayor said early on Friday. Russia said the drone headed for Moscow was downed in Poralsk district, just south of the capital. Emergency crews and specialists were on the scene. The governor of Bryansk region, which borders Ukraine, said anti-aircraft units had downed 3 Ukrainian drones overnight with no damage or injuries. And in Belgorod region, also on the border, 2 Ukrainian drones were downed, the Russian Defense Ministry said. And Germany's Defense Minister Boris Pistorius announced on Thursday that the country will buy 3 HIMARS rocket launchers from the United States to send to Ukraine. The remarks came after a meeting between Pistorius and his U.S. counterpart Lloyd Austin in Washington.
I can now confirm this, that we will be supplying 3 HIMARS launchers to Ukraine in cooperation with the Americans. They come from the stocks of the US Armed Forces and will be paid for by us. We have also emphatically reaffirmed the importance of NATO, but also the European partners in particular, when it comes to the question of how we support Ukraine.
Well, Moscow concluded its Victory Day celebrations with a firework display on Thursday. Victory Day is an annual event in Russia that commemorates the Soviet Union victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. Russian President Vladimir Putin accused the West on Thursday of risking a global conflict and said no one would be allowed to threaten the world's biggest nuclear power as Russia marked its Victory Day. And Russia's President Vladimir Putin proposed that Mikhail Mishustin, the former prime minister, continues chairing the Russian government in Putin's new presidential term. The move comes just after Russian President Vladimir Putin was sworn in for this fifth term this week. Putin nominated current prime minister Mikhail Mishustin in January 2020, leading many to believe he would become a technocratic authoritarian placeholder. However, Mishustin has maintained a strong track record and a relative popularity with the Russian electorate, increasing the likelihood that he will remain prime minister in Putin's fifth term. And the annual U.S.-Philippines bulletins joint military exercises concluded today after weeks of live fire drills and new weapons deployment. This year's joint military exercises, held from April 22nd, concentrated on the northern and western shores of the Philippines. The annual exercise that saw the participation of over 17,000 troops aimed to strengthen ties between the U.S. and the Philippines. The drills came at a time of escalating tension between the Philippines and China in the South China Sea. And Kenya on Thursday launched fresh mediation talks between South Sudan's transitional government and opposition groups that refused to join a 2018 peace deal. The holdout groups did not sign the 2018 pact mediated by the regional bloc IGAD to end a civil war between South Sudan President Salva Kiir's government and various armed factions. Former Kenyan Army Commander Lazarus Sumbavio, who helped broker Sudan's 2005 peace deal, will lead the Nairobi talks. South Sudan is scheduled to hold elections in December this year. And Nigeria's Senate on Thursday proposed a significantly toughening penalties for drug trafficking, making the death penalty the new maximum sentence through a law amendment. The amendment, which is not yet law, replaces life imprisonment, which was previously the harshest punishment. Lawmakers who opposed the measure expressed concerns about the irreversible nature of the death penalty and the possibility of wrongful convictions. However, Nigeria, Africa's most populous country of more than 200 million people, has in recent years gone from being a transit point for illegal drugs to a full-blown producer, consumer and distributor. And Chad state election body on Thursday said interim President Muhammad Idris Deby had won the May 6th presidential election outright with over 61% of the vote. National Election Management Agency Chief Ahmed Bartichet said Deby had secured 61.3% of the vote, comfortably over the 50% needed to avoid a runoff. With tensions running high, large numbers of security forces deployed at major intersections in the capital and N'Djamena ahead of the results announcement. Chad's junta has become the first of the coup-hit countries in West and Central Africa to stage a return to constitutional rule via the ballot box, but some opposition parties have cried foul over vote rigging concerns. And still to come, indeed, India News Hour. Election campaigning heats up in United States. President Biden will attend campaign receptions in California. We'll tell you the latest on the Baltimore mishap as authorities hope to unblock the port's shipping channel by the end of May. And the famed Lord of the Rings movie series is set to debut in theaters in 2026. We'll tell you more ahead.
How bad is climate change for us Indians? And 80% of our population lives in districts that are at risk of climate-induced disaster.
It is a concrete structure. It is a groundwater tank. So they collect the water, store it. When they go deeper, after 10 feet, they used to get the saline water.
We are now at a much warmer. So the 1.2 degrees Celsius of warming means that every single heat wave is now hotter, longer and more likely.
What people need to know is when is it going to start raining. When is it going to stop? If we provide this information, people can make their plans accordingly.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and moving on, former US President Donald Trump has accused the New York judge overseeing his hush money trial of corruption. The judge, Juan Merchant, denied Trump's team's request for a mistrial after adult film star Stormy Daniels gave detailed testimony about an alleged sexual encounter. Trump, who has pleaded innocent to 34 felony charges of falsifying business records, criticized the ruling as a disgrace. DD India's correspondent Sally Patterson reports from New York on this.
After more than 6 hours of testimony, Stormy Daniels' time on the stand came to an end on Thursday. She talked the jury through her alleged relationship with Donald Trump that she says began back in 2006. She claims to have met the former president at a golf tournament in Lake Tahoe. She says they spoke and he later invited her back to his hotel suite. She spoke to her publicist, who told her to go ahead as it would be a great story either way, and she decided to go. Turning up at his suite, Daniels says that Donald Trump was wearing just his pajamas made of silk or satin. She says they discussed her career, they discussed the porn industry more widely, and they even discussed going into business together. Afterwards, she said she went into the bathroom, and when she came out, she claims Donald Trump was lying on his bed wearing just his underwear, and she says a sexual encounter then took place. Trump has repeatedly denied any sexual relations between the pair.
I'm innocent, and I'm being held in this court with a corrupt judge who's totally conflicted.
On the stand, the Trump's team tried to use that as an opportunity to really undermine Daniels' story. They claim that she only really spoke out about it in order to try and get money out of the story and also to boost her own position and status. But Daniels says, actually, if anything, speaking out about what she says is the truth cost her, didn't benefit her at all. She said she was forced to move home several times. She said she had to buy security in order to protect herself and her family, and she said she was threatened on social media. This all comes amid a case which is looking at an alleged payment made to Daniels in the lead up to the 2016 presidential election. The prosecution claims that that money, which was paid by Michael Cohen, who at one point was Trump's lawyer and fixer, was then paid back by Donald Trump to Cohen. They say that that money was then filed as a legal expense, which they say was actually incorrect and actually illegal. Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 criminal counts of falsifying business records. He could face jail time if found guilty on the case. He's, of course, running to be president of the United States once again and is frustrated to be spending time inside the courtroom and not out on the campaign trail. Sally Patterson in New York, reporting for DD India.
Well, election campaigning in the U.S. heats up. President Joe Biden took off from Joint Base Andrews on Thursday for a campaign stop in San Francisco, California. On Friday, the president will attend to Biden campaign receptions in the Bay Area. He will then travel to Seattle to participate in campaign receptions on the 11th of May. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump will face each other in the U.S. presidential election on 5th of November in what looks set to be divisive, closely fought contest. And the family of an African-American U.S. Air Force airman who was fatally shot by deputies who all burst into his apartment in the Florida Panhandle said that they want to correct a false narrative put forth by authorities about the encounter that led to his death. The shooting occurred in the afternoon on 3rd of May when a deputy with the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office went to the apartment complex, entered the unit and opened fire. 6 shots hit Roger Fotson, 23, a senior Air Force airman who was at home in his apartment. The killing is reminiscent of an unannounced police raid in Louisville, Kentucky in March 2020 when police burst into the apartment of Breonna Taylor, a black 26-year-old emergency medical technician, killing her. Police had obtained a no-knock warrant to raid the apartment, mistaking it for the home of a suspect. And the U.S. Senate overwhelmingly passed a broad aviation bill to boost air traffic controller staffing, increased funding to avert runway close call incidents, and speed refunds for cancelled flights. The $105 billion five-year measure reauthorizes the Federal Aviation Administration. The bill prohibits airlines from charging fees for families to sit together and requires airplanes to be equipped with 25-hour cockpit recording devices and directs the FAA to deploy advanced airport surface technology to help prevent collisions. The bill, which is expected to get final approval next week from the U.S. House of Representatives, does not raise the mandatory pilot retirement age to 67 as lawmakers had sought to do last year. And latest on the Baltimore mishap, authorities hope to unblock the port's shipping channel by the end of May. The economically vital channel in Maryland's Patapsco River had been largely closed since the collapse of Baltimore's Key Bridge on 26th of March. The economically vital channel in Maryland's Patapsco River has been largely closed since the collapse of Baltimore's Key Bridge on 26th of March. Speaking to media, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg has said that the 6-week closure of large portions of the port has certainly had an impact on supply chains, particularly as it came at the same time as war-related disruptions to shipping in the Red Sea and weather-related disruptions to the operations of the Panama Canal. And the Panama Canal is in talks with the U.S. liquefied natural gas producers on how to meet increased demand for crossings. The talks come following recovery in the canal's water level after a prolonged drought. The canal is typically used by U.S. Gulf Coast exporters to send LNG cargoes to Asia. However, low water levels since last year cut daily crossings, driving many producers to seek most costly or longer alternative routes. An American multinational financial services company, Western Union, confirmed on Thursday that it had resumed its remittance service from the U.S. to Cuba. Western Union said its services to the Caribbean island nation had been disrupted since January 28 this year due to technical issues with the processing of transactions. The resumption of services after more than 3 months restores a vital lifeline for Cubans who depend on the company's money transfer system. The disruption had forced Cubans to seek alternatives and often more costly routes for receiving money from families and friends in the U.S. And improved salaries for defence personnel and upgrade equipment and infrastructure, New Zealand government approved $344.6 million to Defence Force. The funds are partly provided in savings made by the Defence Force and the Ministry of Defence, and most of it will be allocated over the next 4 years. New Zealand spends around 1% of GDP on its Defence Force, and it has suffered a number of challenges, including high turnover in part due to low pay, which has forced the Navy to idle 3 ships. And the bodies of 7 labourers shot and killed by gunmen near Pakistan's southwestern Gwadar port were taken to Karachi on Thursday. Police official Mohsin Ali said the gunmen stormed into a house some 25 kilometres east of the port city and shot and killed the labourers in their sleep early on Thursday. The port city is located in troubled southwestern Balochistan province, which borders Afghanistan and Iran. No one has claimed responsibility so far. And Israel secured a spot in the grand finale of Eurovision 2024 contest alongside Switzerland and the Netherlands. 20-year-old Israeli solo artist Eden Golan secured the spot despite large protest against the country's participation. Some 100,000 visitors have gathered in the southern Swedish city of Malmö for the annual contest. The grand finale is scheduled for Saturday and will feature performances from 26 countries.
It's in public.
It's truly such an honor to be here on stage, performing and showing our voice and representing us with pride and making it to the finals. It's something crazy, and I'm so grateful for everyone who voted and who took part in supporting us and me. And yeah, I'm just super excited to go on stage once more and share a bit of my love with everyone.
While the United Nations General Assembly is set to back a Palestinian bid to become a full United Nations member on Friday, the Palestinians are reviving their bid to become a full UN member, a move that would effectively recognize a Palestinian state after the United States vetoed it in the 15-member UN Security Council last month. Though the General Assembly alone cannot grant full UN membership, the draft resolution being put to vote on Friday will give the Palestinians some additional rights and privileges from September 2024, like a seat among the UN members in the Assembly Hall, but it will not be granted a vote in the body. An Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese on Friday announced that the government would hold a parliamentary inquiry to look into the negative impacts of social media platforms. Albanese said that the social media platforms have significant reach and control over what Australians see online, with almost no scrutiny. The government has criticised social media platforms for not being quick enough to remove violent posts and seeks more oversight over content posted on Meta's Facebook, ByteDance's TikTok and Elon Musk-owned X.
I think that this will be an important inquiry for people and the community to engage in the debate about what is the role of social media, how do we make sure that social media's benefits continue whilst the potential for harmful impacts are minimised.
And weather updates from across the globe now. Rescue efforts continued in southern Brazil as the region battles devastating floods, which left at least 107 people dead on Thursday. More than 1 million people have been affected by flooding in Rio Grande do Sul. Over 67,500 are in shelters. The military and volunteers are on ground organising food and clothing for victims. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said on Wednesday that the damage will only be quantifiable when the waters recede. And almost 1 million people have been affected in East Africa as flooding and landslides wreak havoc in Burundi, Kenya, Somalia and Tanzania. The unusually heavy rains exacerbated by the 2023-24 El Nino climate phenomena has led to heavy damage. Hundreds of lives have been lost, highlighting the urgent need for humanitarian assistance. Large number of people have been displaced with significant damage to homes, schools and infrastructure. And a scorching heat wave gripped Mexico on Thursday, raising temperatures. A maximum temperature of 33 degrees Celsius was recorded in the country's capital. Mexico is experiencing its second heat wave of the spring season, with temperatures above 30 degrees Celsius across the country. Electricity demand and unseasonably hot weather caused power outages in at least 15 states, and drought has affected dam levels. And Costa Rica is suffering from the worst drought in 5 decades. To reduce pressure and cope with shortages, the country announced an electricity rationing plan on Thursday. A severe lack of rainfall has affected hydroelectric plants, which gives about 70% of its electricity supply. The country last saw electricity rationing in 2007. State-run electricity company ICE has blamed the drought conditions partly on El Nino. Also in India, the meteorological department has announced that the heat wave is nearing its end across the nation. Some regions in West Rajasthan and Kerala are still facing severe heat wave, prompting authorities to issue alerts. According to the India Meteorological Department, multiple weather systems are expected to influence various parts of the country in the coming days, bringing with them rainfall, thunderstorms, lightning and gusty winds. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A massive 3D printer dubbed the Factory of the Future 1.0 is building a house in Maine. The printer has been designed to help address a shortage of homes and construction workers in the U.S., printing dwellings in days that could be installed within hours. The prototype, called BioHome 3D, is made entirely with bio-based materials. A fresh installment in the popular Lord of the Rings movie series is set to debut in theaters in 2026. Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav on Thursday announced that it will be one of the 2 new Lord of the Rings films. English actor Andy Serkis will direct the first of the 2 films. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Padma Awards among the highest civilian honours of the country were conferred to eminent persons yesterday by President Draupadi Murmu. As the fourth phase of India's Lok Sabha elections nears, political parties pick up on their campaigns to woo the voters. And portals of Kedarnath Shrine open for devotees in North India's Uttarakhand.
Phase 4 of the world's largest democratic elections across 96 seats in 10 states and union territories. We track the states from the south and eastern regions of India. How are the political battle lines drawn as the summer just gets hotter? Catch all the buzz as we analyze the seats that go to polls in Phase 4 in this region on the Great Indian Election at 8:30 p.m. IST only on DD India.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Khurana. Now a quick recap of the headlines once again. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says if needed, Israelis will stand alone in its fight against Hamas after US warning on armed supplies. Israel strikes eastern Rafah as ceasefire talks end with no deal. Ukrainian President Zelensky dismisses head of state guard after two members accused of assassination plot. Rescue teams race against time to deliver aid to flood-stricken communities in southern Brazil. More intense rain expected as death toll reaches 107. And in football, Atalanta trumps Marseille 3-0 to reach their first Europa League final. Will play Bayer Leverkusen, who reached final with comeback draw against Roma. And moving on, India's President Draupadi Murmu conferred the Padma Awards during a civil investor ceremony in New Delhi on Thursday. The Padma Awards are the highest civilian honours in India. These awards are categorized into three categories, including Padma Vibhushan, Padma Bhushan and Padma Shri. DD India's Abhishek Mahajan files this report. Take a look.
Veteran actor Vaijayantimala Bali, Telugu star Konidela Chiranjeevi, the first woman judge of the Supreme Court, late M. Fatima Bibi, and Bombay Samachar owner Harmusji and Kama were among the eminent persons conferred Padma Awards by President Draupadi Murmu on Thursday.
I've been in this line for the last 40 odd years, and I'm happy that the government has recognized my contribution to Indian languages, basically Gujarati. And I have tried my best to promote the language. You know, we organize book fairs, we organize books for children, we organize Gujarati plays, so that the language remains vibrant. Honorable Prime Minister made a special trip to Bombay to release a stamp on our bicentenary, which was very nice.
Ladakh's spiritual leader, Togdan Rinpoche, Tamil actor, late Captain Vijay Kant, Kundan Vyas, group editor and CEO of Gujarati newspaper Janmabhoomi, Gauri Lakshmibai Thampuratti were also conferred Padma Awards at a civil investiture ceremony held at the Rashtrapati Bhavan.
It was a feeling of great surprise initially. Of course, I'm happy because it is an honor the nation is giving. I'm grateful, very, very grateful to my Bhagavan Sri Padmanabha Swami, to my ancestors and all well-wishers. And people from grassroots levels, the ordinary people, or people whom we call ordinary. And when they may be extraordinary, ordinarily, extraordinarily, ordinarily, whatever it is. So that way the Padma has become more available to so many people, and that is really very, very good.
The Padma Awards, among the highest civilian honors of the country, are conferred in 3 categories: Padma Vibhushan, Padma Bhushan and Padma Shri. The awards are given in various disciplines or fields of activities such as art, social work, public affairs, science and engineering, trade and industry, medicine, literature and education, sports, civil service, etc. Abhishek Mahajan for DD India.
Well, the Char Dham Yatra commences with the opening of portals of Kedarnath Shrine today with worship and Vedic chanting. The portals of Kedarnath Dham, one of the 12 Jyotirlingas of Lord Shiva, were opened for the devotees on the auspicious occasion of Akshaya Tritiya. Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami was present along with the numerous pilgrims from across the country at the holy shrine during the ceremonial opening of the temple after remaining closed during the winter season. Along with the Kedarnath Dham, the portals of Yamunotri Temple, the revered source of the Yamuna River, were also opened for the devotees, while the doors of Gangotri Temple will be opened in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the Badrinath Shrine, considered as Lord Vishnu's abode on earth, will be opened on the 12th of May. And now let's get you the latest in the world's largest democratic election in India. Well, the 4th phase of India's Lok Sabha elections is set to be held on 13th of May with voters across 96 constituencies in 10 states to cast their ballot. This phase will witness voters in all 25 seats in Andhra Pradesh and 17 constituencies in Telangana along with other states participating in the electoral process. The build-up to this phase has been intense with political rallies and campaigns in full swing. And campaigning for the 4th phase of Lok Sabha elections scheduled for May 13th gains momentum as political leaders holding rallies and roadshows across the nation. In order to garner support of voters in the favour of party's candidate, Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Maharashtra, Telangana, Hyderabad and Odisha today, where he will be holding rallies and roadshows. Also, BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah to visit West Bengal and Jharkhand today. Amit Shah to hold rallies in Asansol, Rampurhat and Ranaghat of West Bengal. Later in the day, Amit Shah to campaign for party candidate Arjun Munda in Jharkhand's Khunti. Also, senior BJP leader and Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to hold public meetings in Dhumka and Goda of Jharkhand. He will also hold rally in Puri, the holy city of Odisha. And in order to garner support in party's favour, political parties geared up to woo voters across the country. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge to hold rallies in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Bahujan Samaj Party Supremo Mayawati to hold public meetings in Akbarpur parliamentary constituency of Uttar Pradesh. Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav to hold rallies in Uttar Pradesh's Kannauj and Kanpur. And India correspondent Amit Mukherjee joins us from Indore and Dibyendu Mundal from Krishnanagar in West Bengal on the elections. Well, Amit, good morning to you. My first question, MP Madhya Pradesh, referred to as the heart of India, is all set for phase 4 when 8 constituencies go to polls there. Our last leg of intense campaigning must be on. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, good morning, Lipakshi. With about 30 hours now remaining for the campaigning to come to an end before the candidates actually line up for the election on the 13th of May. The last moment campaigning is like really picking up right now. In fact, you know, the local candidates are on the field right now because Prime Minister has already laid the foundation as far as the campaigning is concerned. He started in Madhya Pradesh as early as in the first week of April. In fact, Jabalpur is the place where he started the campaigning in Madhya Pradesh. In fact, not only in the first week of April, the Prime Minister had started unofficially his campaign in Madhya Pradesh way back in the month of February when he had laid down the foundation stone for about 7,500 crore projects in the tribal district like Ratlam, which is basically Jhabua district, That is the place where BJP is now focusing on. The tribal belts are it's right now on priority. And those are the belts which the dynamics of everything had changed during the last assembly elections. Otherwise, BJP in 2019 had a clean sweep. 28 out of the 29 Lok Sabha constituencies were backed by BJP. Now, after the elections, the state assembly elections, there were a little challenges, a little bit of challenges that were actually thrown at the BJP, which is why the focus is right now on the tribal belt. And even in the 8 constituencies, 50% is tribal and 50% is non-tribal in Madhya Pradesh right now. And this is the last phase where 8 constituencies will be going to polls. Lipakshi?
Right. Okay, my next question to you, Debyendu. You are in West Bengal, and in West Bengal also 8 constituencies are going to polls. How is the political dynamics playing there?
Well, very good morning, Lipakshi from here in West Bengal. So, of course, 8 constituencies, as you rightly said, is going to polls, and these 8 constituencies are part of the South Bengal part of West Bengal. This is very crucial 8 seats that are going to polls, which includes the important seats of Krishnanagar, where I am, where 2 heavyweight candidates, the BJP's Amrita Roy, or very commonly known as Rani Ma of Krishnanagar, is contesting against the Trinamool Congress's heavyweight Mahua Moitro. Moving here to Bahadurpur, where Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, the Congress's heavyweight, which had been a very strong bastion of the Congress, the TMC is trying to breach that bastion by fielding a former cricketer and a very well-known face who had also played for the Kolkata Knight Riders here in West Bengal. Yusuf Pathan will be taking on Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary from Behrampur. If we go to Asansol, which is also going to polls in this particular phase, remember Asansol had embroiled itself into a controversy after the BJP fielded Pawan Singh, a famous Bhojpuri singer, after which he had to withdraw his candidature from the BJP. And now SS Ahluwalia, who was the erstwhile candidate, in fact, sitting member of parliament from the Bardhaman Durgapur constituency, which is also going to polls in this phase, will be contesting now from Asansol. On the other hand, the BJP's former state president Dilip Ghosh will be contesting from the Durgapur Bardhaman constituency. So these are some of the key important constituencies that are going to polls in this particular phase, and each one of them, also Lipakshi, let me tell you, the Birbhum constituency, which had been the heart of the Trinamool Congress's stronghold, is trying to be breached by the BJP this time around. And remember, the BJP's muscleman from the Birbhum constituency, Anubrata Mandal, is currently arrested by the CBI after he was allegedly involved in scams such as cattle and coal smuggling. So, of course, that bastion is something that the BJP is trying to breach from the Trinamool Congress this time around. So, of course, all these 8 seats that are going to polls in this particular phase are interesting to watch for. These are South Bengal seats where violence also is something that, has been throughout here in this part of Bengal. So, of course, we'll wait and watch till the day of elections as to how the politics plays out here. Back to you.
All right, wait and watch. Thank you so much, Debyendu and Amit, for giving us all that information and update from there. And moving on, the Lok Sabha constituency of Krishnanagar in West Bengal is witnessing a fierce 3-corner fight among the BJP, the TMC and the CPIM. The TMC and the BJP have fielded heavyweight candidates from here, making this constituency a hot seat to watch out for. Here's a ground report by correspondent Debyendu Mondal. Let's take a look.
200 years ago, this palace had been the center of politics. But 2 centuries later now, history meets politics again. The Queen Mother, or the Rajmata of Krishnanagar's palace, is contesting the election against the Trinamool Congress's heavyweight candidate Mahua Moitra. This constituency of Krishnanagar, where politics will flow from this particular Rajbari or the palace, will be interesting to watch. Let's delve into the politics of the Krishnanagar seat in Bengal. The real political battle in the Krishnanagar Lok Sabha constituency is between the elite and the royal. While the BJP has fielded Queen Mother or Rani Amrita Roy, a descendant of the last ruler of independent Bengal, Raja Krishna Chandra Roy, the TMC has fielded the vociferous Mahua Moitra. The political heat here is turning up, with the BJP putting all its might to defeat the TMC. On Thursday, the BJP organized a massive roadshow here. Popular actor turned politician Mithun Chakraborty and Amrita Roy toured the city, with thousands of people queuing along the road to take a glimpse of both their Rani Ma and the actor. Some came dressed as Lord Ram and Hanuman, while others cheered amongst the crowd. The electorate of this constituency says that the corruption of the TMC government has put the BJP in an advantageous position this time around.
This time the BJP is strong. We think Rani Ma is going to win. There is too much corruption in the TMC government. People will vote for Modi.
While the TMC also campaigned throughout the day in various parts of the city. The TMC is keeping the social schemes of its government as the key highlight of their campaign.
I think Mahua Moitra is ahead in the race because she is accessible. Nobody before this knew Rani Ma.
The historic city of Krishnanagar is named after Raja Krishna Chandra Roy. The huge palace here still stands tall to narrate the history. It was this kingdom that gave Bengal the festival of Jagadhatri Puja. The people of Krishnanagar fondly remembers their king, who were known to be kind and giving. With the BJP now fielding the 39th generation of the king who once lived in the hearts of every people of this constituency, the battle has turned interesting. Even though the day comes to a close, the political heat in the Lok Sabha of Krishnanagar is turning high. Two heavyweight candidates contesting against each other, but it will be the people of the Krishnanagar Lok Sabha that will decide who their candidate would go to the Parliament of India in Delhi. With camera person PK, this is Dibyendu Mondal from Krishnanagar in West Bengal for DD India.
Well, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday paid homage to 12th century Hindu Kannada poet and philosopher Jagadguru Basaveshwara on Basava Jayanti. Taking to X, PM Modi paid respects to the philosopher, highlighting his ideals as a way for millions. The festival is celebrated majorly in Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana and Maharashtra. And moving on, aimed at enhancing cooperation on counter-terrorism between India and Europe, 14th meeting of India-EU Joint Working Group on Counter-Terrorism held in New Delhi on May 7th. The dialogue aimed at enhancing cooperation on counter-terrorism between India and Europe. The EU and India strongly condemned terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. The meeting allowed for an in-depth discussion on regional threat assessments, key counter-terrorism policy developments, including state-sponsored and cross-border terrorism. It also saw discussion on tackling a rising online presence of terrorism. Also, they emphasized the importance of strengthening counter-terrorism cooperation through exchange of information, capacity building, strengthening law enforcement and judicial partnerships. Well, the Indian Army plans to stop all import of ammunition from the next financial year. Major General V.K. Sharma, ADG Procurement, during a seminar on ammunition production organized by the PHT Chamber of Commerce and Industry, said that the Army is currently purchasing more than $700 to $900 million worth of ammunition annually, all of which will now come from Indian sources.
In the next couple of years, we'll have zero import of ammunition. It was a tall vision. Tall vision because in 60, 70 years before that, we were always dependent on imports for meeting our critical ammunition requirements. And it is the active cooperation of all the stakeholders, Government of India, Ministry of Defence, ordnance factories, industry partners, that today I am so happy to convey that we are very close to realizing our vision of zero import.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. The auspicious occasion of Akshaya Tritiya is celebrated across all over India today. On this holy day, people buy gold and start new ventures. The day is celebrated by offering prayers to Hindu Lord Vishnu and Goddess Lakshmi. Devotees offer prayers, observe fast, perform rituals and participate in charitable activities on this day. The Supreme Court will pass an order today on Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's interim bail in the money laundering case registered against him by the Enforcement Directorate in connection with the Delhi excise policy case. Kejriwal was arrested by the ED on March 21st in connection with the money laundering probe relating to alleged irregularities in the now scrapped Delhi excise policy 2021-22. And on to some business news now. World stocks rallied on Thursday, led by surging European shares and a larger than expected rise in US weekly jobless claims that buoyed interest rate cut hopes, while the dollar eased as the market awaits key inflation data next week. Following a sluggish open, the major US indices pulled higher, with the Dow Industrials rising for a seventh straight session. New signs of a softening labor market provided hope the Federal Reserve might cut rates as soon as September. Well, overnight in Asia, Chinese trade data and some property market developments had helped Chinese stocks continue their recent outperformance. Custom figures showed that China's imports jumped 8.4% in April from a year earlier, beating expectations for a rise of 4.8%, while exports returned to growth, meeting forecast in a boost to economic growth. Meanwhile, India's benchmark indices Nifty and Sensex are trading higher, supported by index heavyweights. Sensex was trading 525 points higher, while Nifty 50 jumped 150 points. And US President Joe Biden's administration is poised to unveil a sweeping decision on China tariffs as soon as next week. As per Reuters quoting Bloomberg's report, the decision is the culmination of a review of so-called Section 301 tariffs first imposed under Donald Trump. The administration is set to impose new targeted tariffs on some key sectors, including electric vehicles, batteries and solar equipment. The full announcement is expected to also largely maintain existing levies. An announcement is scheduled for the 14th of May. And in a bid to safeguard the prized U.S. technology against foreign bad actors, U.S. lawmakers unveiled a bill that would make it easier for the Biden administration to impose export controls on AI models. The bill would also give the Commerce Department express authority to bar Americans from working with foreigners to develop AI systems that pose risks to U.S. national security. The legislation aims to bulletproof any future AI export regulations from legal challenges. While you're watching DD India News Hour, time now for some sports news. Atalanta reached their first Europa League final with a 3-0 win over Marseille for a 4-1 aggregate victory on Thursday. Ademola Lookman put Atalanta ahead in the second leg on the half hour with a long-range strike past Pau Lopez. He later said Matteo Ruggeri to double the lead 7 minutes after the break. Later substitute El Bilal Tor put the nail in Marseille's coffin with a goal in the 94th minute. The Italians, who have never before reached a European final, will meet Bayer Leverkusen in the Europa League showpiece match in Dublin on May 22nd. And meanwhile, in another semi-final, Bayer Leverkusen staged a late comeback to move into the Europa League final with a 2-2 home draw against Roma on Thursday and win 4-2 on aggregate. With the win, Leverkusen set the longest unbeaten run in all competitions, including European matches. Leverkusen played their 49th match without defeat to surpass Benfica's record set from 1963-65, but they had to battle for the second leg draw. Bayer Leverkusen will take on Atalanta in the final at Dublin. Well, former Ivorian footballer Didier Drogba lit the Olympic cauldron at the end of the first day of Paris 2024 torch relay in Marseille on Thursday. Ex-NBA basketball player Tony Parker was earlier among those carrying out torchbearer responsibilities along a route that ended at the State Velodrome, where Drogba played for Olympique Marseille before moving to Chelsea in 2004. The Olympic flame landed on French soil on Wednesday amid tight security, firing the starting gun on a summer extravaganza of sport. The flame arrived in Marseille after a 12-day trip from Greece on board the Bellum, a 128-year-old three-masted tall ship.
3, 2, 1.
And Spain's Pelayo Sanchez claimed a victory on stage 6 of the Giro d'Italia on Thursday as he outsprinted two other breakaway riders at the uphill finish at Rapalana Terme. Sanchez, France's Julia Alaphilippe and Australian Luke Plapp kept clear of the chasing peloton at the climax of the 180 kilometers ride. Race leader Tadej Pogacar finished safely in the peloton to retain the title, leading the overall battle by 46 seconds. Pogacar's Giro debut could not have gone any better so far, and he will look to build his lead in Friday's time trial, a 40.6 kilometer test from Foligno to Paraguay. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Purana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.